Cersei Lannister is a pretty cruel and impulsive character. At the start of the even at the start of the show, it is a pretty open secret that she sleeps with her brother, and she makes enemies easy and have a really hard time holding on to and making allies or friends. And generally speaking, most of the people in Westeros seem to despise her, highborn and lowborn alike. So how is it that she is the character that has stayed on or close to the Iron Throne for much, much longer than any other character in the whole story? Because if we just think about it, Cersei have survived 3 kings. She have survived Jon Arryn, Ned Stark. Tyrion had to escape. She survived her father as Hand of the King. And now it's Qyburn, right? So she have survived like 5 Hands of the King, 3 kings. How? I mean, it's pretty weird, right? We should also take into consideration that she is a woman and Westeros is a quite sexistic or patriarchal society, so that she is a woman is not a benefit to her either. I think I found 3 reasons that I think can explain how she has stayed in power or close to power for so long. The first one being is she always stay in King's Landing with a pretty strong force loyal to her. I think it was for me clearer in the books that in the time leading up to Ned Stark's downfall, his arrest, and also in the time leading up to Tyrion's downfall, they both sent considerable parts of their forces to other places. Ned Stark sent some to help the City Watch, some to cleanse the to take care of the trouble in the Riverlands, and so on. But Cersei never do that. She always see to it that she have a big force of guards loyal to her, around her, and in King's Landing. Also, she stays at King's Landing all of the time. For example, when Littlefinger chose to leave King's Landing, he later comes back, he finds that his power base is diminished. The Sparrows have sacked or cleansed his brothel and so on. And Cersei, she don't leave King's Landing. She stays in where the power is. She stays in the capital and she keeps control of the capital. I think that is one of the reasons she have managed to stay in power for this long. Now, the second point is a bit related to the first. Cersei Lannister have no maximum limit to the amount of violence she is ready to use. When Ned was going to confront her and expel her and her children for being, because she had cheated on King Robert with her brother, he did expect some resistance, and he was prepared for some violence, but I don't think he was prepared for the complete slaughter of all his men that she saw to that it became. I don't think he couldn't comprehend that amount of violence from her. Also, if we take the High Sparrow, and this is one part, Cersei breaks her rule about keeping a big force of loyal troops around her all the time. She breaks it one time when she goes to the High Sept of Baelor and is arrested by the High Septon. Now, the High Sparrow. Now, the High Sparrow, even if he has a very peaceful... he tries to seem very peaceful and calm and godly. But he is prepared to use a lot of violence to reach his goals. I mean, we see them crash a brothel, flogging the patrons of that brothel through the streets. We see his guys smash beer and wine barrels and so on. The High Sparrow is very prepared to use violence. But the amount of violence that Cersei was ready to use, blowing up one of the biggest and most holiest buildings in Westeros, he could not comprehend that. He could not prepare for that. When Marjorie tells him that, oh, something is wrong, we probably need to leave, he's locked. He's like, what? She wouldn't go that far, would she? Yes, Cersei would go that far. Cersei don't stop. Cersei don't limit the amount of violence she uses. And also in the scene where Jaime and Olenna talks just before Olenna is given the poison so that she should die, Olenna Tyrell tells him, like, I have done a lot of really nasty things to protect my house, and I've not lost a night of sleep for any of them. I did what I thought was necessary. But your sister, Cersei, she have done things that I can't even imagine. Yes, Cersei does things no one else can imagine. She never limits herself. Well, my dog is making a bit of a fuss over there. Now, also, when Daenerys comes to Westeros with 3 dragons and a whole force of Unsullied and Dothraki and all of the other guys, the Tyrell army on her side, the Dorne army on her side, the only reason she doesn't just push and take King's Landing is because she and her advisors, they want to limit the civilian casualties. Cersei wouldn't let that stop her. No, there is a third reason. It's not only sheer brutality that keeps her in power. She does seem to try to surround herself with competent people. I think this is more clear in the later seasons when she's actually on the Iron Throne. But I mean, earlier she managed to keep Littlefinger as an ally for a while, but then he betrays her because he's Littlefinger. And she keeps Grand Maester Pycelle as an asset for as long as he's useful for her. Maybe you could argue he's not a very competent person, but he have a place on the small council at that point, and so he is a very useful ally to her. Now, later, when Qyburn shows up at the Red Keep, she immediately realizes that this guy is very useful, very talented. So she ties him to her. She makes him her hand of the queen. Also, this gives her the zombie mountain as a bodyguard. Actually, like kind of the perfect bodyguard. He follows commands. He don't say anything, so she don't need to be afraid that he tells her secrets to someone. And now in the latest seasons, we have seen that she don't just have one zombie bodyguard. She have a whole bunch of them. Also in beginning of season 7, she makes a really good choice, making Jaime Lannister, who is by that point still very loyal to her, the head of her army, and Euron Greyjoy, the head of her navy. She sees that these two guys are very good at what they are doing. And that takes away a big part of the advantage Daenerys have at this point. But remember, as I said, if Daenerys had been like Cersei, she would have stormed King's Landing before Cersei could react. But Daenerys is not Cersei. She is concerned about innocent lives, and that gave Cersei the time to take action against her. Now, I want to finish this video with 3 quotes from Cersei that I think are very telling. When Littlefinger tells her that knowledge is power, she have her men grab him, threaten to execute him, and then just releasing him and backing off. And she says, "Power is power." Again, she is not interested in playing around. She and Jaime says repeatedly to each other, "Fuck everyone who isn't us." And that's also like defining for her. She loves her children. That's taken up again and again. That's like the only thing she really loves. And in the earlier season, in most of the story, she also loves her brother Jaime very much. When her cousin Lancel Lannister, who by then works for the High Sparrow, come to her and try to bring her to the High Sept of Baelor, he says, "Come now, or there will be violence." And she looks at him and says, "I choose violence." I think it's pretty telling for her. Last but not least, she is actually the one who gives the whole TV show its name. She is the one who tells Ned Stark that when you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground. That was my thoughts about Cersei and how she managed to stay in power for so long.